Another city is looking at banning landlords from rejecting Section 8 tenants, but it's not on the east or west coast. This time, it's Lexington, Kentucky. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and once again, it's going over the whole thing where they don't want landlords to reject Section 8 tenants, okay? This is an issue across the entire country, and obviously landlords, they don't want to participate. A lot of landlords just do not want to participate, and they shouldn't have to, okay? The program was set up to be voluntary, and as far as I know, the feds, they still say the program is voluntary. However, the local housing authorities in a lot of places are saying, oh, well, there's not enough landlords accepting these vouchers, so we're going to force them to do so. And that's exactly what they're trying to do in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, this is not the sort of place I'm normally talking about. I'm usually talking about places in California or over on the East Coast. And, these are the places where you expect to see this sort of law. But Kentucky, I'm actually kind of surprised, okay? And if you see this sort of thing happening in Kentucky, guess what? It's spreading everywhere. It's going to be where I invest, in Missouri, in Kansas, in Nebraska, okay? I mean, this sort of law, these sort of rules, they're spreading like wildfire as these, really progressive left-leaning tenants and tenant advocates are trying to get these laws passed throughout the entire country. It's a joke, okay? My personal opinion is if they want more landlords to participate in the program, they're going to have to sweeten the pot, which means they're going to have to pay above the market level rents, or maybe pay bonuses out to landlords who decide to take these tenants, right? And more landlords will then say, okay, you know what? For this little bit of extra money, I'm willing to deal with the hassle of dealing with the bureaucracy. I'm willing to deal with, a lot rougher tenants. I'm willing to just take a chance on this program. But unless they're willing to, put their money where their mouth is, a lot of landlords are still going to reject the program. And even if they do pass out, this extra money, that doesn't mean that suddenly these tenants are going to have more places to rent, because when it comes down to it, a lot of landlords are still going to want to put regular tenants in there because they don't want to have to deal with the government at all. Okay, they don't want to have to deal with the nonsense at all. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So what do you think of, more cities located in areas outside of the coast and places that are not known as being, liberal strongholds? What do you think of that? The fact that laws like this are being proposed in these areas, okay? Are you seeing this sort of thing where you live and invest? Are you surprised? Do you think these sort of laws are going to be passed nationwide? That's my fear right there. We have a president of the United States and an administration which seems to be pushing towards nationwide rent control. That's the kind of things they're proposing right now. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they passed a rule or some kind of law that says that, hey, landlords throughout the country, now we're taking away the voluntary part of Section 8 vouchers, and we're making it mandatory that landlords accept them. Okay, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. I'm surprised that they haven't tried it already. But anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. This article is coming from fox56news.com, and it says, why are Lexington housing vouchers underused? All right, let's get into the story. Lexington's Urban County Council was presented with a proposed ordinance that would ban discrimination based on source of income on Tuesday. As rents continues to skyrocket in Lexington and spaces become more limited, there's a growing concern for people who live off of housing vouchers. Lexington's Urban County Council members learned today that there are some people who've had vouchers for more than 6 months and still can't use them. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for these people because of the housing shortage. There's a housing shortage throughout the entire country, which means that landlords can pick and choose which tenants they want to put into their properties, okay? And we can choose the most qualified, the ones who have the best incomes, the best rental history, etc. And in 90% of cases, that is not going to be a Section 8 tenant. Now, that doesn't mean that landlords will not take these tenants, but there are certain landlords who, they specialize in Section 8 or they're used to Section 8 and dealing with the program, and those landlords are the most likely to take these sort of tenants. And then the other landlords will be like, you know what, rather than dealing with this program and, the inspections and the bureaucracy and all that nonsense, right, collecting rent from not just the tenant by themselves, but also from the government for a portion of the rent, I'd rather just take a regular tenant because I have more than enough overqualified tenants applying for each one of my rentals. That's what landlords are saying. Okay, they have more than enough overqualified tenants for their rentals, and they don't have to take Section 8. If they were struggling to find renters, well, that's a different story, but that's not the case. That's why at Tuesday's Social Services and Public Safety Committee Housing advocates tried convincing more landlords to accept renters who get help from the government. Charlie Lanter, Commissioner of Housing Advocacy and Community Development, said, "We have people right now who are on the streets or in a homeless shelter who have vouchers." Lanter said in the past 6 months, 215 vouchers were issued and 18% were returned. He also adds that the average wait time to find a place to live on a housing voucher is over 100 days. And some of that 100 days is actually caused by the bureaucracy itself, as landlords sit around and wait for inspectors and, to get things fixed and then the place be re-inspected, etc. Okay? So some of this waiting time is actually caused by the bureaucracy, not by the landlords. But, it still says that 18% of the vouchers that are put out there are unable, the tenants, they just can't find housing with them. And while that number, it is high, right? It's probably lower in a place like Lexington, Kentucky than it is in other places like on the East or West Coast. I think I've read articles that said, as many as 40% in some places of the vouchers go unused because these people are unable to find housing. But the real question, right? Why are people unable to find housing? And that falls back onto the fact that there is a housing shortage. What we need is more rentals, okay? It's the same problem that is causing, the rents themselves to skyrocket. If we don't have enough rental housing, it's always going to be difficult for people to be able to find housing, whether you're a Section 8 tenant or you're a regular tenant. And the affordable housing is, it's just going to be difficult. It's very, very difficult to find right now, especially. Okay, we have rising interest rates. We have less people who are motivated to be landlords. We have developers building a lot less properties. And hey, man, costs are going up. It's going to be hard. It is tough. It is very tough right now for the people who need this lower income housing. Okay. And hey, I'd be perfectly happy to provide them with a housing if I could. But even I'm struggling to find rental properties which, meet my criteria so that I can rent them out. And if I did find them, they probably would not be considered affordable. Okay. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. So the real solution to this problem is we need to build more housing. We need more housing. A lot more. I mean, people are like, oh, well, we've been building housing for years and prices haven't gone down. It's like, that's because we didn't build enough. We need to build a lot more housing and then prices will finally be able to drop. But I just don't see that happening when we have interest rates that are so high and looking like they're going to continue to go up. Developers aren't going to be building in that sort of marketplace, at least not yet. The low participation rate of landlords working with Section 8 housing vouchers has city council members concerned. Chuck Ellinger, Lexington's council at large, said, "When I hear the stat about 70% no longer accepting the vouchers, I want to know why that is. How can the program be such that we might not force it on landlords, but make them want to take it because they want to use the program?" And he has the right question, right? It's like, why are landlords not participating? And they have to really just do a deep dive into the program, talk to the landlords, talk to people who are involved and figure out, okay, why, what exactly is causing you not to want to deal with this? Is it bad experience with tenants? If it's not just the tenants, is it bad experience with the bureaucracy? Is it just additional hassle? Is it additional time required? Like what is it? What can we fix right now that can get somebody to participate in the program who wouldn't have participated before? Is it just the money? If we paid you extra, would you be willing to participate? Whatever it takes. If that's what they want to do is help these people find housing, then they're going to have to really, really try hard. And forcing people, trying to force them is not going to work. And I'll tell you exactly why it's not going to work. Because landlords aren't morons, okay? We're not just going, well, they said I had to take a Section 8 tenant, so I'm going to take one. No, they're still going to reject Section 8, even if you pass a law saying that you cannot reject these people with these vouchers, right? They're just going to find other reasons to reject them, okay? They're going to find other reasons to reject them, or they're going to say, well, you know what? I don't want to even be a landlord in your city. I've lived in many cities, and guess what? All of them have had suburbs. And if I knew that, hey, this main city here, be it Lexington, Kentucky, or in my case, Kansas City, right, has these laws or rules that say, oh, well, you have to do A, B, C. Well, I'll just invest in the city right next to it, right outside of your jurisdiction that does not have those laws and rules. And that way I can still make a profit and run my business the way I see fit. So a lot of landlords are the same way as me, and they will just, move along, no longer rent properties within the city. That means that they will have a housing shortage, even bigger housing shortage there, because less landlords, less developers, less real estate investors want to participate in their programs, okay? So, we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that a city in Kentucky doesn't pass this sort of law and they have the sort of common sense that says that, hey, landlords and property owners have the right to make decisions about their businesses and who they want to rent to that, are reasonable and acceptable.